Hi, my name is Ben Halpfon, and I am the co author of Our Happy Divorce: How Ending Our Marriage Brought Us Closer Together. Thanks for joining us today. We're a little running behind a little bit, and as you'll see, the scenes are going to get a little messed up, but we're on the fly and we're live. As always, I am joined usually by Kate Anthony and Susan Guthrie, but tonight, like last week, we have Susan Guthrie with us today. She's recognized as one of the top family law and mediation attorneys in the country, and has been helping individuals and families navigate separation and divorce for 30 years. She's the founder of Divorce in a Better Way, and she's also the host of the Divorce and Beyond podcast. Hello. Look, it worked.
It worked. I'm there.
There, you're there. Hi.
Yeah. Hi. Hi, Ben.
So
We don't have Kate.
we don't have Kate, and we don't have Nikki, but we did have Nikki last week.
We did. And a
which was
bonus Nadia.
and a bonus night. So I think that is the only way that we're going to get Nikki to join us is having Nadia, but we'll figure it out. But I did want to say it's been a while since I've been on LinkedIn or any social media, so I missed that you were awarded the the L. Randolph Award by the Southern California Mediation Association?
Yeah, L. Randolph Lowry. He's one of the founders of the foundation. Thank you. Yeah.
Congratulations. I know it
Thank
was a
you.
big deal for you, huh?
Yeah, well, I've never won an award before, so that was pretty exciting. It's actually back there. It's that you can't see it because it's crystal and it's circular, but it's over there.
There it is. And tell us about before the award is great, but I learned something new about you.
Uh-oh.
Uh, and over your left shoulder
Yeah,
is RBG, and you
my
had
girl.
something very special happen to you with
Yeah.
RBG.
That's so the picture is RBG from the Time magazine just recently when she passed, but below it is my certificate from when I was sworn in to practice before the Supreme Court of the United States. And that was the day 5 years ago when Her Honor swore me in, and I got to meet her. And honestly, one of the best days of my life. I've done a lot of ugly crying in the last couple of months. I miss her a great deal.
I bet.
She's a treasure. But yeah, so I keep that there, and I have the picture. Her book that she signed for me is right there, and right next to it is the picture of the two of us. So
That
it was a
is
pretty,
so
pretty
awesome.
cool day for me. As you can see, I surround myself with
A little
it.
RBG shrine everyone should
Yeah,
have one in their
exactly,
house,
exactly.
lawyer or not.
Yeah.
So our guest tonight is Michelle Kenny Carlson. I've had the pleasure of getting to know her over the past month or so. She's had so much parenting. She has so much parenting knowledge, and I'm excited to have this conversation with her tonight. Michelle lives in Los Angeles with her two girls, 9 and 12. Before becoming a hand what is
Hand,
it?
hand.
Hand to hand certified instructor. She worked for 12 years in the public schools as a teacher and counselor. She also served as an adjunct professor in the Department of Education, instructing the teacher credentialing program, none of which prepared her to be a mom. After many bribes and star charts, she found hand parenting, created by Patty Wilford, to reshape the relationship she shares with her daughters today. She is passionate about helping others find their way through the murky business of being a connected parent. So I look forward to hearing how I can become a connected parent. And so, see, I told you it was going to mess up.
Well, she'll get.
That's okay.
We're
We
going to
like
get her
to-
on right here. We're going to get me off the side,
You.
and we're going to get Michelle.
Hey, there she is.
Oh my gosh.
Round of applause.
Hi.
Hi, Michelle. How are you?
Hi, I'm well. Oh my gosh, when you were talking about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I was like, I got chills.
Honestly, it was one of those big birthdays, and my husband was like, "Do you want a party?" And I'm like, "No, I want to meet Ruth Bader Ginsburg." So
Yeah. Yes.
I was lucky I got to work that out through the American Bar Association, and it's seriously, literally one of the best days of my life.
That's
Really.
so exciting.
Thank
I won't take too much time on that, although I'd like to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what were you saying about parenting?
Well, I mean, you and I have had a couple really good conversations. And first of all, from the teacher, to the counseling to where you are today is a phenomenal story. So if you just want to sort of, how you got to where you are today, which is an impressive business and helping a lot of parents out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I wanted to be a mom more than anything. I was like the neighborhood babysitter. I loved kids, and it was a natural fit that I became a teacher. And I had really good relationships with my students. And, I took them to India, and I did all kinds of projects, racial harmony and all kinds of like special things. And then at some point, I decided I wanted to have my own kids, which made sense. And I had them, and in the beginning of parenting, I said to myself, I can't believe how hard this is. Like, I don't think I can do this, and I don't know what I'm doing. And I ended up, using punishments and bribes and threats and star charts and all of the things I thought would work to move behaviors. And those are the things I use as a teacher too, because that's what they teach you in your teacher credentialing program, is to use rewards and punishments. But with my strong-willed, highly sensitive firstborn, she just wouldn't have it. So we became very deadlocked in this struggle of power. And I would go to bed crying at night thinking, how can I not know how to do this? I've spent my whole life with kids and I'm failing. And so I finally said, I need help. And I found Hand-in-Hand Parenting. And I took a course for 12 weeks with my now ex-husband. And we relearned how to be parents and use connection as opposed to using fear. And I loved it so much. I thought, and I was so dumbfounded that this existed, that nobody else knew about it, or that I thought nobody else knew about it because I didn't know about it. But I thought, I can help people, because there have to be other people out there who don't know either and who are struggling like me. So then I just started giving free classes I went to the credentialing program and I became a certified instructor. And then I started giving free classes out of my living room. I begged all my friends to come take classes because everyone was like, what is this stupid hippy dippy thing you're doing? And I was like, please come, and I need a tribe. So I taught everybody I knew for free for like a year. And then it just turned into a business.
So the, one of the things that, we always love, or I love doing this, and why I do it is because we get so many great professionals and people who are, teaching people how to parent or teaching people how to divorce. And somewhere in that story is a story of divorce, and you have one too. And if you don't mind us sort of shedding some light on that and sharing that story with us and the outcome.
My husband and I met when we were 18. In college. We were college sweethearts. We got married young, 29, I think we got married, and we had kids, and we were together they're married for 16 years. And at some point our marriage just deteriorated, and we knew we needed to split ways. And we had 2 young kids, and it was, it was hard, and it was messy, and it was the most difficult thing I think I've ever done besides parenting, is getting divorced with kids. And so we split ways, but we've stayed intact to some degree as a family, but it hasn't been easy. It's been a really hard road, but we are still pretty amicable. And so I'd say, I don't know if, who is out there listening, but if you can do that, that's amazing. You can keep the animosity out of it and just kind of focus on the kids and what's important for them, and remember why you cared about this person.
And so one of the things that that I've said, or I've thought at least, and you sort of reinforced it, was the idea of this co-parenting, and you talk about animosity and peace and all, but really those issues that you shine some light on for me was that they're there whether you're married or whether you're divorced.
Those relationships,
those differences.
I mean, the thing is that I think there's this idea that because you're divorced, you're somehow so broken, or that your family is so broken, or that your kids are so much worse off because you're divorced. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. And married people experience all kinds of conflict within their marriage and all kinds of conflict, that also exists outside of your marriage. So just because you're in or out of the confines of marriage doesn't mean you're devoid of conflict, or that you have a bunch more just because you're divorced. And I think it just depends on who you are and how you process and what you make important in your world for your kids to make it as conflict free as possible.
What are some of the, I guess, the similarities with that, conflict or that non-peace in parenting between divorced families or divorced parents and non-divorced parents?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can have a very tumultuous marriage where, the parents are not connected to the kids, and that too can happen in a divorced family. I mean, I think it's all kind of the same. And we've talked a lot about like co-parenting, but you co-parent whether you're married or you're not married. Like everybody's co-parenting if you're a parent and you have another person with you that's parenting. I just don't know why we're so focused on the idea that marriage is somehow so different than divorce when it comes to kids. It only is if you allow the conflict to take over. But the conflict can take over in marriage too.
Yeah, Susan, I mean, one thing that I'm sure that you see a lot is that the idea of, I don't want to say stop being a parent, but those, I guess, parenting principles in a high conflict divorce sort of get thrown out the window, and it sort of switches from maybe not doing what's best for the kids and doing what's best for you.
But parents often will couch it in terms of doing what's best for the kids when it really has nothing to do with what's best for the kids. It has a lot to do with the parents' emotional content. And it goes, I love that Michelle says conflict, because conflict is whether you are in an intact marriage that is full of conflict or you are divorced in a situation full of conflict, your children are going to have problems. It's conflict that leads to issues for children. It is not divorce or marriage or any of the institutions or that we've come up with. It is directly tied to the level of conflict between mom and dad, or mom and dad and dad. It has nothing to do with all the rest of it. And parents, in a high conflict situation, and that was my area of expertise as a litigator, was high conflict divorce. And so I was always in the mix of arguing what was in the best interests of the children, which very rarely had a huge focus on what was really in the best interests of the children, and was focused on the conflict between their parents.
Well, the best interest of the children is no conflict.
Right. But tell that to two people in conflict.
Right.
Or one person in conflict, because if you have one person in conflict, unfortunately, unless the other parent is well versed, trained, given coaching and understanding of how to manage that conflictual parent, they will also be in conflict. Yeah. You can't stop someone else from being in conflict, but you can change how you respond to their conflict. And that's where you can start to do better things for your children.
Yeah.
We're going to do something on the fly here. I apologize. That's not Susan, but we have to fix this because it's driving me crazy. All right, there we go. So when you said something, Michelle, that I didn't know before, but you and your husband took this hand in hand parenting.
Yeah.
Did that help you at all at the divorce process, or some of the tools you learned in the hand to hand?
It didn't help with the divorce process, because the divorce process, to me, our divorce process was just paperwork. Right, it really was not like a big process, but it helped us maintain some, similarity in what we were doing in our homes, where we were both on the same page, where we're doing kind of the same thing. You can't fully police what's going on at the other house, but, we both parent with the idea of connection, and without the ideas of punishments, and without the ideas of rewards, and without the ideas of shame and all of that stuff. And we both do that now. And we learned that in those courses. And so I think that's what's really helped us, is that our kids have that continuity, and they feel like they're, it's very similar, our parenting method.
So I just have to add, no rewards?
No, absolutely no rewards. Rewards are just punishments in disguise.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Oh boy. Do you want to elaborate or no?
Yes, please.
I do.
I think we're gonna have to. Yeah, I need to, especially the benevolent aunt.
Yeah.
Susan.
3 days ago, I posted that rewards are just punishments wearing lipstick. So you can read that post. It's really good. But there's an educator out of New York State called Alfie Kohn, and he has a book called Punished by Rewards, and he's a research-based educator who writes all about rewards and punishments, and he does it with the idea of all this scientific, support that he draws from. So it's not just theory. So the idea is that when a child receives the reward for doing something that's right, they feel good. But when they don't receive the reward, now they feel punished. So it isn't necessarily the giving of the reward that's the punishment. It's the not receiving the reward when you don't do well is the punishment. The other thing that science tells us is that the child focuses more on getting the reward than actually doing the task. And what we want
to do the task.
Yeah, they do the task sometimes.
I'm a failure.
And maybe. And it's like then sometimes the rewards need to increase. Like, pretty soon you're gonna be giving a kid an iPad to unload the dishwasher because it's not enough. And then the real thing that you're teaching, because 80% of what kids learn is what's modeled to them. So when you're rewarding a child, what are you modeling? You're modeling bribery, because you're not modeling a task. You're modeling that that the way in which you could get somebody to do a task for you is to bribe them. So now your child has learned bribery. So they're going to use bribery in their own life, and they're going to maybe use it with you, or they're going to use it with their friends, or they're going to use it with their teachers, or they're going to use it with their siblings. And they're going to say, yeah, I'll play what you want to, I'm not going to play what you want to play unless you do what I ask. Or I'm not going to be your friend unless you go on the monkey bars with me. And so now we've taught our child to bribe. And what we really want to teach is we want them to do the task because it's the right thing to do, and because they intrinsically, inside of their own self, want to do it, as opposed to extrinsically motivated by a carrot.
So when I had a discussion with my 8-year-old daughter about maybe this wasn't the best year to go trick-or-treating, and she negotiated a payment of $150, a movie with dad, and a sleepover, that was not a good thing.
Well, no, and she's learned the bribery somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
or the art of negotiation. I was proud of her.
Negotiations are one thing. That's bribery. I mean, negotiations are something different. That's like coming. It's when
she
you
started at 400.
Right.
And then we went down to 100. See, this is interesting. This is not where I thought this was going to go, but this is what we get live. But I was actually proud of her. I mean, that she stood up and she negotiated, and I thought that my job as a dad was complete, because she wasn't going to be steamrolled. And I felt, But let me ask you a question about the reward system first. An allowance or some sort of, if they have chores to teach them about earning,
Yeah. I have a lot of questions about that, and I think it's a really interesting concept to think about, because the idea behind chores, actually the idea behind allowance, is that we want our kids to become, money savvy. We want them to understand what it's like to have money and spend it, and be frugal with it, or just kind of learn about money. And the way in which we've set that up in our society is to say, okay, well, you can earn money by doing chores, and then you can learn about money. But what it ends up being is ultimately is just a bribe, that we're bribing our kids to do a chore. And so what I tell parents is that give your kids money, but don't have any strings attached. You can say, I'm giving you an allowance of $100 a month or $20 a week or whatever it is, and have them learn to money manage. But chores are not linked to it. But I do think chores are important. So kids should want to participate in the chores in our house because they are part of our house, not because we pay them. We should not have to pay our children to clean up their room. They should clean up their room because we've asked them to clean up their room. Right. And so they don't need to be melded together. They can be very separate to where it doesn't have to be a bribe.
So when giving my kids money or allowance, one thing that I've tried to do with them is to teach them about, like you said, the not the power, but the responsibility of money. And we have they each have 3 little boxes: one for spend, one for save, and one for charity. It's broken down. 70% goes to give or to save, or I'm sorry, to spend, 20 and then 10.
But you are telling them how to put it in the boxes?
As far as a percentage?
Yeah.
Yeah, I failed.
No. Just a different perspective.
Something tells me that's a big
Listen, this is all just a different perspective. You don't have to do it. You can. Right. You can listen.
It's an interesting one.
She's dumb. I'm not listening to that. But it's just a different perspective. So the idea, I think, what I like to do is say, here's your money. Go for it. And now if you end up with no money, that's your problem. I'm not going to tell you, because if we're micromanaging their money, then what are they learning? They're learning to rely on us to tell them how much to save. So are they really learning to save? So like Pia, for instance, she got a lot of money for her birthday and she wanted to spend it on Roblox, and she wanted to get a phone case, and she wanted to get all this stuff. And she says, can I get this? And I said, if it's your money, you can do whatever you want with. Of course, she ran out of money. And she was mad because she couldn't get the pajama pants that she wanted. And I said, no, I'm not getting them for you. You have 17 pajama pants. You don't need another pajama pants, even though it's COVID and everyone's in their pajamas. Yeah. And so she was upset, right? And she lost. She screwed up. But that's the learning, right? Because she did screw up and she did mess up, and now she's really learned organically, if I want something, I know what money is like. I've figured out what $70 means. That is her learning. And I think the failure is where our kids really, really end up learning. And when they fail on their own, they really make change. So I'd say let them fail, give them their money, let them go to town, buy all the candy they want, and then say, when they mess up, be like, I know, I'm so sorry. Man, that sucks when we spend our money on the candy, isn't it?
Yeah, Roblox. That's a whole different live stream.
$19.99 right on my Apple Charge account.
Yeah, it's great.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
That's how old my kids are.
You missed that one, Susan.
No idea what you're talking about.
Lucky girl. Lucky girl.
Oh, well, trust me.
How are you doing on this?
I know all the stuff that happened up to now, so.
Yeah. How are you doing on this enlightenment period here, Susan?
Well, actually, it's interesting for me because I'm a stepmom or a bonus mom. And so this particular discussion we're having about money is a discussion that I've had with my husband through the years about my stepchildren and about how we should approach money with them. And he didn't agree. He had maybe more of a Ben approach to the money, and I maybe had a more Michelle approach to the money. And we went with more of the Ben approach with the money because I'm the stepmom, not the parent. And I would say that they've not learned the lesson around money. And so just as a anecdotal aspect of all of this, I would say I've seen it in play. And now they're learning it because now a little bit older in life, as they're getting out there on their own, they're having to learn it. But I feel like in one way we didn't do the best we could have for them, because it would have been much better for them to understand this earlier than at 22.
That's what I always say. I'm like, let them fail now when they're 7.
Yeah.
then they will go to college and have money to eat to eat on and
Right.
not
They're not eating ramen for a month until their next allowance check comes.
right.
Or
The same goes for
Venmo.
homework. A lot of people say, you know, I'm all over my kid about the homework. We sit down, I have to do it. It's after school and it's the fight and it's the homework and blah, 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 blah. And the grades too. They have to get good grades and sometimes they're bribed to get good grades, whatever. But I really said, like, I don't care about your homework or your grades. That is for you to care about. And if you fail, then you fail. And I'm not going to get worked up about it. And I'm not here to micromanage your grades or your homework, because I don't want to damage the relationship I share with you, first of all, because it's way too important for grades or homework. And it's really your responsibility. So when they're about 7 years old, I'm just kind of like super hands off.
Wow. So a question in the spirit of peace and parenting, because, you know, like Susan said, you know, she had a different approach than her husband. You know, I would imagine that Nadia, my wife, and I have a different approach. I know Nikki, and I have a different approach towards money. You think mine's bad. But anyways, how can you and how do you teach your clients to sort of get on that same page? And maybe what's the order of importance? Because I think, at least with Nikki and Nadia, you know, pick your battles. You can't win them all, and they're not all worth going full blown nuclear on them. So,
No.
What advice can you give?
I mean, I think people are going to parent differently. You can't fully be completely on the same page on everything, and that's okay. And kids will learn to navigate mom and dad, or dad and dad, parent and parent, or whatever. They'll figure that out. But I really try to teach. I teach a 6-week course to couples, and we come together on the idea that connection is where we start, and connection is what we're really going for. And as long as we're using connection as our guide, and that is what we're going to do instead of punish and threaten and bribe and reward, then we kind of have a baseline. And if we can get on board with connection and throw out the rest of those external motivators, that's enough to kind of level the playing field. And in that course, I also teach, you know, empathy and play and special time and understanding and kindness. And when you teach all those things, everyone's going to interpret it a little bit differently, and everyone's going to apply it to their kids a little bit differently, which is good. But if you have those basic principles, then you can come together just in the roots of it all. You come together, if that makes sense.
No, it definitely does. And so as we, you know, in the holidays, you know, Thanksgiving, you know, coming up on Thursday, what do you, maybe around the divorce area, and how this peace and parenting, you know, the same page, sort of universal thing, advice that you can give people around the holidays?
My own experience, actually, this Thanksgiving is it's a milestone for us. So we spend all the holidays together, my ex-husband and I often host it. I usually host all of it. And we've really tried to make that the tradition. Like, we will be together on the holidays and the birthdays and our own birthdays with the kids, and, you know, together as a family. And so the idea of connection in this one, you know, example I'm going to give you right now is that, so I've been seeing somebody, and I said, can I bring it? I had to ask everybody, can I bring him to Thanksgiving? What do you think? It's up to you all, because you all are my people, and my connection with you is so important that I want to make sure that it's okay with you. And so I went to each of them individually, and I said, listen, you know, I'd like to bring someone. What do you think? And I totally respect your answer. And so it was this whole idea that I wouldn't break the connection I share with my children, and my ex, for anything, even somebody else who I care about. And so I think that's the idea, is like, the connection with your children isn't worth bribery. It isn't worth homework, and it certainly isn't worth any other person. And so I think if you can maintain that, then you're golden.
So did you have a discussion with the guy you're dating first about that discussion with your ex?
Yeah. I said, listen, you're on hold. I'm sorry.
I'm out.
I care about you deeply, but you're on hold until we get the Magna Carta signed. You can't come to eat the turkey. So, and the thing is when you build in deep connection with your kids, and also with your ex-spouse, they want to see you happy and they want to say yes because you haven't bribed them or threatened them or punished them or otherwise jeopardized the relationship you have with them. So they want to say yes to you.
Susan, any special intricacies or differences at the holiday season that you see with parenting or co-parenting than normal, and maybe even this year?
Yeah.
Is there any silver lining this year?
COVID.
Oh, silver lining. I mean, it's hard to say there's a silver lining. You know, it's a topic that is being hotly debated as we speak, right? This is the number one topic that is coming up, and COVID is actually, unfortunately, far from throwing a silver lining in, has thrown in a dark gray lining because it's leaving people in a situation where if their children aren't with them and they're going to be with their ex or their co-parent or other family members, some people are being faced with having to spend a holiday alone. And because they can't go to other family or friends. And so it's bringing up a lot of emotional content for people over and above what I have to tell you after 30 years of being a divorce attorney is one of the highest content, emotional content areas anyway. And so this is really going to be a tough holiday for people. In fact, I just last week had an episode with another parenting expert about how to manage the children and the children's time during the holidays. But the one that I have coming out next week is with Dr. Elizabeth Cohen, talking about anxiety, depression, and all of the other, elements of our mental health as we go into these holidays, because it's going to be a tough one for a lot of people. It's going to look different, even intact, families or new families. My family is very small this year for this holiday, and through the rest of the season. So the one thing I always encourage parents to do who are not able to, I applaud Michelle what they've been able to do and still keep the family unit intact for holidays so that your children are in no way placed in that, mom's house, dad's house holiday situation. That is an ideal. People are often not capable of managing that. Unfortunately, for many parents, holiday time comes down to this concept in their minds of fairness. And it's the fairness to them as parents rather than a concept of what's fair for the children. And for so many people, I hate to even use the phrase, but 50-50. Shared equal time is so tied up in their concept of fairness, so that the holidays become about minutes, time, and hours and days for children. And the children are the ones who end up experiencing that based upon, the parents' concept of fairness. So one of the things that Christina said in this past week's episode is, fairness, throw out the concept of fairness and go with flexible, go with what works for your children, and actually think about what the holiday looks like through their eyes. What opening up a bunch of presents and being all excited is, and then, put those aside, put everything away, grab your suitcase, it's time to go over to the other house. Yeah. And put that into your, mental loop and see how that plays out.
Hold that fairness thought for a second, because Michelle, I just got a request on my phone from my 5-year-old who wants to buy Robux, 400 Robux for $2.99. I'm gonna say no.
No, well, the thing is I don't think you have to say no. The point isn't to say no. The point is to say you can do it, but you have to use your own money.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna say no now, and then I'm gonna explain to him about why, because I'm hand in hand now. Question about the fairness, because I think this is such an interesting thing about if you were to ask Susan, if you were my divorce attorney, Michelle, you were my divorce coach. The kids. I think if you were to ask however many different people involved in the situation about what's fair, you might get 4 different answers. Is that fair?
You would absolutely get 4 different answers.
Well, that's why I always say, like, your household can't be fair. It just can't be. There's no way. You try to be as equal as possible, and that's it. It just can't. There's no way.
We have Dr. Strange, I guess, from YouTube. How can a democracy of 2 marriages? How can you have a democracy of 2 in marriages? In marriage, nothing would be achieved.
How can you have a democracy of 2?
Meaning
Of
no
2.
one's a tiebreaker?
Yes.
Right. Well, I think that's why so many people end up divorced.
I was gonna say it's kind of the definition of marriage.
Right.
And if you can't do it, yeah.
3 would work, but maybe I don't.
Yeah, the polys have an advantage.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you
So-
have to have enough empathy and understanding for your partner to like give some and get some, and not for everything to be fair.
So it's not, necessarily of one. Everybody, I guess, each parent would have a different, an equal say, but it's about maybe communication, empathy, understanding, finding a middle ground. So, what happens when you have a big ticket item? I don't even know what a big ticket item is. I guess it would be on the particular issue. But when both feel like it's worth fighting for, what are some tips you can give to come to an understanding so there's not a divorce, or if there is already a divorce, there's not a visit to the lawyer's office or the custody agreement. Does that make sense?
I mean, I think Susan probably does it in mediation all the time. I always tell my clients, like, just listen to your partner first before you start talking and responding and thinking. And I think a lot of us are always, when we're listening to someone, we're thinking, how can I respond? What's my stake? What am I going to say? How come I don't believe this, or I want to refute that, or blah, blah, blah. So I always tell my clients, like, just let your partner speak and don't respond. And maybe you respond 3 hours later. Maybe you think about that and respond. I think communication, we miss that part of listening, that we're not good listeners. And I think the same with kids. Like, we really have to listen to our kids instead of when our kids are speaking. I think a lot of us as parents are always thinking, how can I respond to them? Instead of, let me just let that sink in. Let me be quiet. Let me hear them.
Yeah, Susan, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, well, actually, that's beautiful, and that's something that we don't give ourselves the grace of thinking or listening and then holding something. My husband sprung something on me the other day, a question, and he just like blurted it out, and it was startling to me, and I sat and listened for a minute, and then I actually just said, you know what, I'm not ready to answer that right now. So can I just get back to you on that? And I almost never do that. I felt like I had to give an answer. And he was like, oh, okay, yeah, I didn't mean to spring it on you. Sure, take your time. And, that's something that you don't have to have a synchronous conversation at all times, right? It doesn't have to be that someone says something and you've got to come up with your response to it right now. The other thing to remember, when everyone seems to be very positioned, like, it's got to be this way. You were talking about, when people are really dug in and the other person's like, oh, no, it's really got to be this way. In mediation, what we're always looking at is the difference between positions and the interests that actually underlie that position. So if it's an interest for a parent, like the children have to go to Catholic school. Well, what is it about going to Catholic school that is, what is the interest that is serving? And if you can break that down, very often is what we find in mediation, that it might have something to do, well, I want them to have, a very set schedule, or I want them to learn catechism in school, or whatever, those particular things. And sometimes you can make arrangements to provide that in another way, so that those interests are met, but not in that hardline positioned way. So that would, that's the other part, is one of the things you can be thinking of, or maybe insert before you even respond to whatever it is your partner has said, is the why question. or the what is underneath this position that you're so interested in?
That is, Michelle, do you have anything to add to
Yeah.
that? I mean,
I like that. I
Yeah.
mean, I think with everything too, I mean, I ask it in parenting of my parents all the time. They'll be like, well, like just for instance, like, why are you saying no to roadblock? Why?
Why? Good question.
You know what I mean? Is it like, are we just arbitrarily saying no to our children? Are we just arbitrarily telling them they need to come home at 10? What if they want to come home at 11? Is that okay? And why isn't it? Because I think we really do get stuck in this idea of like, we're hardlined, you know? And when we hardline like that, there's usually a bigger, better reason. I'm scared my child's going to stay out all late. And if they stay out really late, they're going to do drugs. And if they do drugs, then they're going to be an addict and blah, blah, blah. And they go to this thing where you're like, if they stay out till 11,
awfulize everything.
they're going to be a drug addict. You know, it's like, let's let go of that and let them stay till 11 but then it's like, then we have to go back and work on like, okay, let's work on why you think those things and how can we unknot that and what trigger for you and what happened to you when you were a child and what are you bringing to the table also with all this. And I think it's an interesting conversation. I like the why a lot.
Yeah. The power of why. Big.
Does hand in hand work any differently for a divorced couple than it would for a married couple?
No, because we're all just parenting, you know, married, not married, divorced, never married, you know, never lived together. I have couples who've never been together, but they have a child. So it's like, there's all kinds of different people. We're just parenting. We all need to find connection, and connection is the best way to be with people.
So how do you get, and I think we started off this question, I didn't answer it very well, but you know, one thing that I read, I think I remember reading on your website is about the parent-child bond being eroded over time. What about the parenting bond? You know, that seems to get eroded sometimes with divorce. And, you know, how do you connect parents back into that role, you know, of being a parent that sometimes gets, you know, side-turned or sidetracked when going through such an emotional process?
The parents' bond is eroded.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think like we talked about, sometimes, you know, because of the emotions of divorce and because of the anger and all the negative stuff is, you know, parents sometimes forget about being parents.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's we had children for a reason, right? We didn't have children to drag them through our adult mistakes or through the mud or whatever. And just getting back to that idea that we're the only thing they have. They depend solely, especially little kids, they depend solely on us for everything. Their emotional well-being, their physical well-being, their survival. And they know that. So their limbic system is innately linked to our limbic system because they know they need us for survival. So their reptilian brain says, I need this person. I have to maintain this connection with them or I could die. Now, granted, they're not going to die, but that's how they operate and that's how they subconsciously believe. And so we have to keep in mind that we're their everything. And we have a really big responsibility to be the best everything that we can be for them.
We usually wrap this up about this, but I do have what the world? I hear myself. Do you guys hear me?
Yeah.
It's a little bonus, Ben. Now we can't hear you at all. I don't know.
Now we can't hear you.
Yeah.
All right, hold on.
Now we can hear you.
I hear, I don't know where that came from, but that was Nikki and Nadia.
From last week?
From last week. And I have no idea where that came from. All of a sudden,
they wanted to be a part of things.
My computer went crazy. I wanted to talk about dealing with kids, or whether they're young or older, who are parents are just getting divorced, and how emotionally hand in hand, or you coach on letting kids deal with their emotions, not rewarding them or not trying to be favorite parent or whatever sort of things that we can help kids get through, the emotional part that they go through a divorce.
I think the biggest thing is to validate our kids' feelings. Like when the kids say, I don't like going to daddy's house. It's so hard. I don't want to pack my stuff. I don't want to do it. Instead of saying, well, here, let me help you. You can do it. Will you go every week? Well, you know what? It's not that bad. Well, you'll be back on Sunday. Instead of like reasoning it and explaining it. And this doesn't have to be divorce or going back and forth to mom and dad's house. This can be anything, but I know it does happen for divorced kids. They don't like to go back and forth. And instead of saying that, be like, just lean into empathy. I understand. I know it's really hard to go to daddy's house on Friday. I get it.
Not because daddy's an asshole, it's just hard to go to.
Oh, of course daddy's not an asshole. And we don't have to say daddy is or he isn't. It's not about that. It's just about how does the kid feel, and to validate it. Like we know we're putting you in this spot, this divorce spot, and we're sorry. And I'm going to be here to bear witness to your upset, as opposed to trying to reason and talk your upset away. I'm going to lean into your feelings with you instead of trying to tell you shouldn't have them.
That's pretty good advice. So Michelle, where can people find you? Tell us about your course, the whole rundown of peaceandparentingla.com, just the whole kit and caboodle.
Everything.
Everything is everything, yes.
Everything. Well, my home and my happy place is Instagram. That's where I have my biggest community, and I'm really active there. And you can find me at Peace and Parenting. And I post every single day a little anecdote about what's going on in my world. And I'm really active in my DMs there. And so please find me there if you want. I also have a small following on Facebook. And I have a private Facebook group on Facebook where people answer and ask questions, all under the guise of connective parenting. I have a podcast called Peace and Parenting. It's all over the place. You can find it everywhere. I've got 60 episodes, and there's a lot of good information and tips and all kinds of things in there. We have an episode on divorce. I also have a course out right now called How to Stop Yelling, and it's all about how to stop yelling without bribes, threats, punishments, and otherwise losing your mind. It's all about how to stop yelling using connection. And it's just 45 minutes. It's an audio course. It's online. You do it yourself. You keep it in perpetuity, and you can keep referring back to it as often as you like. It's only $30, and people love it. It's been incredible, done really well. And so it's only going to be out for another week. You can find that in the link in my bio on Instagram, or you can find it in my feed in Facebook. And I think that's only places you can find me. peaceandparentingla.com, my website.
Peace and Parenting, which has got great blog content. The Instagram stuff is great. If you're like me, you read it and came to the conclusion, I got some work to do.
I'm sure. No, you don't.
The good news is that he went back after I said not now a request. My 5-year-old went from the 400 Robux to the 99-cent one.
Oh, we like that.
Yeah, so negotiating.
Although, let him buy all of it and waste his money, and then he'll learn a good lesson.
Yeah, but it's my money at this point. He's 5.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got, I don't know.
Let him lose it all. Gamble it away. Right on Roblox. Bye-bye, honey. Sayonara, sweetheart.
Go buy Griffins and, whatever they're called. Yeah. Susan, you're lucky.
I am going to be Googling when we're done. I need to know. Now you've got my curiosity. There was stupid stuff when our kids were little too. So.
Yeah, there's more, and it's gamified, and it's the kids are very well addicted to it. But thank you so much, Michelle, for joining us and dropping some very important knowledge and inspiration to all of us. Susan, thank you.
No, always, man.
Always. Next week, I think we are going to actually have a guy on.
Woo!
A divorced dad. So I look forward to that.
Is it Daniel?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and happy Thanksgiving to you too. And thank you. Oh wait, before I forget, I gotta give
Kate
and Susan the Divorce and Beyond podcast. Susan, and then Kate's is the Divorce Survival Guide. Great podcast. Michelle, you also have a podcast, correct?
Yeah, Peace and Parenting.
Peace and parenting.
It's
Peace parenting
everywhere.
everything.
Peace and Parenting.
It's a good
Keep it
thing. Well, thank you all, and we'll see you next week, same time, same bat channel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.